For the next hour, deepen your shade of green. This is the Shades of Green radio show, featuring the latest in technology, money-saving ideas, legislative updates, and all things green. The Shades of Green radio show is presented by the Green Alliance. Now here's your hosts, Paul Ira and Stan Hanel.
Good morning. This is Shades of Green radio show on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, and I am your host, Paul Ira. Also in studio today, of course, we have our co-host Stan Hanel and our producer Annette Bubak, who will be broadcasting this episode on Facebook Live. So all you Facebook Live listeners, hello out there. If you have questions, you can send those over to Annette. And our listeners to the program, if you have any questions for any of us, you can call in at 702-257-5396. That's 702-257-KDWN. So for those of you who live here, you can't hardly help but know that the Consumer Electronics Show 2019 just ended a couple of days ago. And that show brings about 180,000 visitors to the Valley and generates how many? I don't even remember how many millions of dollars in revenue.
Hundreds, like a couple hundred million.
$200 million in a week. So I'm told, and yet to be clarified, it's the largest show of its kind in the world, and maybe the largest show in the world like this, a convention like this.
Definitely for electronics, and for us locally, it is our biggest show of the year. It's amazing, yeah.
So I've heard about this for many years. I've never been able to attend, but now that I'm in the information field, I was able to get a press pass along with my two cohorts, and we attended the show. So today we're going to do a little overview on CES 2019. A lot to see. We've got hovercrafts from Bell Helicopter that look so futuristic. I expect to see James Bond step out with a martini just any second. It was a beautiful, beautiful bluish purple craft that's absolutely gorgeous. We have electronics. We have sustainability things, wires, batteries.
Everything.
I looked for a lot of specifically unique, brand new products, and there were plenty of them there. The new, and I don't want to jump around too much, but the new Nissan Leaf Plus was announced.
Right.
Big video on that. So we'll go down this, and we're going to start out by talking about resiliency. What is resiliency? Stan, I'm going to let you give us a definition of that.
Right, yeah. The CES it's like a World's Fair in a way. They divide the event into a bunch of pavilions. There's some of the ones we're going to cover today are smart homes, smart cities, transportation. But this is a new track that they just introduced this year, basically trying to come up with using technology to solve problems that come from things like natural disasters, food shortages, and this applies resiliency is the ability basically to bounce back from a setback. So this can apply to individuals, to small communities, to counties, states, countries, and just whole regions. So basically, just for us locally, we know we've been in 19 years of drought, and we've had to deal with that, come up with solutions to handle our water supply, to make sure we have enough water, as well as energy, to make sure we have enough energy resources as our population grows. So there's this one track had several talks during the day, during the whole event, and they covered things like population, resiliency from natural disasters, food shortage possibilities as our population grows, and what people are doing to try and use technology to solve those. So very interesting. I think the biggest thing with population growth is that people are moving to the cities more. And right now, there are about 10,000 good-sized cities around the world. 50% of the population, world's population, is in those cities, and they expect that trend to continue. People aren't moving away from cities; they're actually moving towards them more and more for survival, and especially when you have natural disasters.
I think around 1900, 70% of the people lived in agricultural areas and had small farms and grew a lot of their own food. This is really impacting China in a big way because people are moving, literally hundreds of thousands of people a week are moving into the cities, and they don't have a way to house them. And then you look at how do you feed all those people in those concentrated areas. And so one of the statistics that stands out is 50% of the population lives within 50 miles of the coastline. So the concentrations are so high, and getting the food to them is a big deal. So when it comes to resiliency as well as sustainability, transporting all of that food, getting it grown. So some of the things we saw and we'll talk about, like freight farms, is a good way of dealing with that. Like Stan said, this is like the World's Fair. The exhibits were all over the place. They used to hold this, I think originally was all held in the convention center, and now it's gotten so large it's flowed out into from the convention center over to the Sands, the Wynn, Encore, Westgate, Mandalay Bay, City Center, downtown Las Vegas. So it's a huge event. They had buses lined up taking people back and forth all 4 or 5 days. So it actually started Sunday, and I think probably had lingering things going on Saturday. So
over the weekend,
heck of a big event. Back to the resiliency issue, a lot of it is revolving around natural disasters.
Right.
For example, the county of Santa Barbara was dealing with fires. The fires threatened both lines coming up from Southern California Edison, actually took one line out. And had it taken the other line out, southern Santa Barbara County, the entire county would be in the dark.
Right.
So now they're moving as quickly as they can to figure out solutions for that. And then, of course, right behind that came the fires. Behind the fires came the rain, which then the mudslides. So now you're dealing with lost power, fires, damage to homes and natural habitat, and then the mudslides. It continues damaging homes and natural. So how do you deal with all that? So that's the question of resiliency. What do you think are some of the solutions we heard about, Stan?
Right. So basically, using technology to become smarter, basically being prepared, as you said, to be knowledgeable that these things can happen, and then when they do, are you prepared? What can you do after that? And I think you were mentioning the area of Santa Barbara County, just trying to predict that and project and have plans available so that when things do happen, they can basically react.
So one of the things you can do on a personal level is people have, especially us former military types, we talk about having a go kit.
Right, a backpack.
So have a backpack that's filled with dried food, a couple bottles of water, radio, batteries, whatever it is you think you would need. If you had to get out of your house in 10 minutes, what would you take with you?
Right.
Well, today, when you don't have to get out of your house in 10 minutes, go pack that and put it someplace where you can get to it. And then if you ever do have to leave, and then adding on to that, what if you were cut off from grocery stores and water supplies for a month?
Right.
You didn't have to leave your home, but how do you deal with that? So that's your personal resiliency. Myself, I have 3 months' worth of dried food. I have untold numbers of bottled water, which I don't drink on a regular basis. I use tap water with an RO system.
Good.
But you have to be ready for all of that. Anything can happen. It's a fragile world out there, and I don't think most people realize how fragile it can be. I was sitting next to someone who told me that 20% of the power lines at PG&E are uninsulated.
Right, our utility grid, yes.
They're uninsulated. So what could go wrong?
Right.
Which is what went wrong.
Right,
a tree
yes.
touched one of those power lines and caused a fire. So it's a fragile world out there is the point.
Right.
So we're going to talk more about several other topics when we come back. CES was a gas. We'll be right back to Shades of Green. Good morning, and we are back to Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM. Our show is produced by Green Alliance, and I am your host, Paul Ira. We have Annette Bubak recording us Facebook Live, so you Facebook Live listeners, if you got questions, please send those over to Annette. And our other listeners, if you have questions, you can call in at 702-257-5396. That's 702-257-KDWN. Today we're talking about overview of the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES 2019. The CES showcases the power of innovation to solve global problems and improve lives around the world. That was spoken by Gary Shapiro, President and CEO of the Consumer Technology Association, who are the folks who actually put this show on. And innovation was just flowing everywhere there. New technologies, a lot of companies come to this show and announce brand new products, and I saw several of them myself. So
yeah, they had whole pavilions. There was a whole French pavilion and a Dutch pavilion as well. 155 countries were represented at that show, so that was a pretty amazing as well. Yeah.
So it's quite the place. We were just finished talking about resiliency and what does resiliency mean about the implementation of measured responses to rapidly changing disruptions like natural disasters or sudden increases in population. So resiliency is a big deal. Feeding all those people. One of the things I wanted to mention real quick that we went to a Feed the World seminar, and they showed this freight food where they take semis and fill the trailers full of dirt and grow gardens and then just drive them to wherever they need the food.
Right,
so
yeah.
that's a great resiliency thing, right to people's homes. And speaking of people's homes, we saw a lot of stuff about smart homes. And Stan and Annette had a chance to tour the KB Project home at Inspirata Community in Summerlin, actually during the show. And the home showcased the latest technologies in sustainable solar energy generation, battery storage, energy efficiency, and electric car transportation. As well as you can't have a home like this without some Wi-Fi networks that allow connection to smart wireless devices to the ecosystem that can enhance the lifestyle and choices and quality of the residents. So tell us a little bit about what we saw on the Internet of Things, the IoT. You see that all the time. The Internet of Things, they finally came up with a term that ties all these pieces and parts together. And one of the interesting parts of this, I used to sell building automation, and a big part of the cost was wiring everything together. Now all this stuff is wireless and web-based because of the Internet of Things. So tell us about that, Stan.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So a lot of the new homes that are being built by Lennar and by KB and other builders, basically Wi-Fi in the home is becoming almost a necessity now. People that are buying want that just as much as they want plumbing or basic electricity in their home. So Lennar has been doing things around their latest showcase home nationwide. They're going to be introducing Amazon Alexa and the Amazon Ecosphere as part of that wireless setup. And then with KB Homes, they were using Google Home Assistant, which is also a voice-controlled system that can connect to a lot of devices. So once this Wi-Fi hubs are installed in your home, you can connect up to 1,000 different devices in your home just by putting them in place, and then there is some programming that goes on. And then basically Amazon Home Services comes in to support the Amazon ecosystem, Dish Network Services to support the KB Auto system, their system as well. So the neat thing is when they talk about all these technologies, how can they make your life better? We got to see some neat things. Did you want to talk about some of them?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can. Let's just start with the KB Project home, which I thought was phenomenal. Being in this industry for as many years as I have, to be able to see them now combine everything in the home from energy, renewables, comfort, health, and just enjoyment. Right. You know, like just having that cool factor with the Internet of Things.
Entertainment.
Right, the entertainment. So, I mean, just from the moment you walk in, you just say, "Hi, Google, I'm home," and all of a sudden your home comes to life and starts to transform to the needs of the homeowner.
Yeah, the lights came on, the shades started lifting so you could see out to the back patio where the water features and the fire features were on. The spa was ready to accept things. The wet bar was there with the
wine dispenser,
wine,
which is one of my favorite features in the home. But what I also thought that was cool was the lighting comes just right to the right ambiance that you want when you come home. The music does.
Yes, background music.
The indoor air quality, it starts to circulate oxygen and everything is at the fingertips of your apps. So you either have a phone app that you're managing it from, or there's some type of monitor in the home. I mean, we even saw where you can cook your food through that system.
Wow, that's
just by having the little QR code.
Right.
You put it on the app, and next thing you know, the oven turns on, sets its timer, lets you know it's ready. You pop it in, and it lets you know it's finished. And
That's great.
You're not going to burn your food when you do things like that.
You don't even have to read the instructions. You just by scanning the barcode, the Whirlpool appliances there automatically would turn on, set the temperature and the time. So you just throw the food in, and then it would take care of it, almost like a microwave, and
Exactly.
you wouldn't even have to worry about it. Yeah.
I mean, right down to little details like that, which I found phenomenal. And in there, the other thing that I thought was cool with the project home is it's also flexibility.
Right.
So the different living spaces are designed for different generations. So if you're, an active adult that has, a lot of entertaining, and you've got walls that can move and open up your entertainment space, or come back into creating a more, say, like a home office or guest room. You've got the rooms upstairs that could be for, you could rent it out. You can have your college kids.
Yeah.
You can have, we talk about aging adults. You could have a
aging in
caretaker,
place,
and it could be your children taking care of you at some point. So this, the flexibility of the space, I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, that flex room was probably really unique. First time I'd ever seen that. So they basically motorized a whole wall in a room so that it could basically move to the other wall, and then you could vary it, the size and shape of that flex room. And they even had a Murphy bed on the inner wall, so you could fold it out for sleeping area, or it could be a den. It gives you
pretty cool.
It takes multi-purpose to a new level, really, as far as doing that. So.
And that was automated. That was part of the Internet of Things.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah, they could just make a voice command. It was very much like James Bond. They showed that to me after I walked in, and all of a sudden, the wet bar wall was in the wall, and the whole wall starts moving backwards. It's like da 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 da.
And the indoor air quality that was in that home was also impressive. Just the way it's constructed, just the basic construction and the building science was important. But the fact that the air sensors that lets you know how high your carbon monoxide is if you have a lot of people, it helps circulate more oxygen, and it's just from one room to the next. It lets you monitor how each room is actually doing, from temperature to carbon monoxide and all of those different, important pieces.
And it's reacting and cleaning the room as needed. And also the water filtration was kind of unique there as well. So they're looking at all the amenities. There's a company called Delos that KB was working with that takes sustainability to a level of health and wellness beyond just energy efficiency and generating power and that sort of thing. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. And then, of course, when we were at CES, we had the chance to see the Align project. That was pretty cool. That was taking all of that information, all of those technologies into a small, tiny home.
Right, that's kind of the opposite
which is
end.
a whole nother approach to sustainability.
And we talked about aging in place. I've been seeing a lot of articles where there's elderly folks are buying these tiny homes and at low cost, but they have all the things they need basically for self-sufficiency, and it's a minimalist approach, but there's no overhead once you purchase one of those homes.
Right. So I have a lot of millennial folks that are around me that would just love this. But now I'm finding that people my age are also looking at it, and our age, right? All of us here in the studio, that would be a really cool way to also go and minimize your own overhead and enjoy life in your later years.
Simplify it.
Simplify.
The cost of operating your home, that's a big deal when you start aging. So we'll talk some more about smart things when we get back to Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back. Good morning. We are back to Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 AM. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. Like the ad just said, we were just talking about smart homes, and one of the first steps to a smart home here in Nevada for free would be going to the Power Shift program and get your free thermostat. I've got one. I'm on my third one now. They're wonderful. I don't even get out of my chair to change the temperature in the house. I just pick up my phone and change it. So call NV Energy, get your free audit, and get yourself a free thermostat. So speaking of smart homes, we're going to move right into smart cities. So there were an entire pavilion filled with smart city ideas. And Stan and I were talking a little bit during the break. The key to smart cities is the streetlights and traffic signals. So once you upgrade a streetlight from a high-pressure sodium to an LED and generate probably 70, 80, 90% savings from electricity, you also generate a nice flat real estate up there that can be used to add cameras, gunshot sensors, pollen detectors, a 5G cell phone tower. What else, Stan? I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go up there.
Yeah, it's the sky's the limit. Just like outfitting a smart home, if you can think of an application that might be able to help all the buildings within the city and all its residents to move around better, to navigate, to get feedback when something goes wrong. If there is an accident or a traffic incident management situation occurs where you need to get the police and the fire and something out there, they can zoom in on it really quick and get response there and clear that traffic really quick. Or just for saving lives through the 911 system, that sort of thing, getting people, the response of city workers out to the people that are having problems at the time to again, be resilient and be able to bounce back from that.
So with a gunshot sensor, for example, you can tell when a gunshot goes off where exactly it's at. You can click on the cameras in that area.
It triangulates.
You can record what's going on and actually see things. If there's a traffic accident, you can turn on the camera, see what's going on, dispatch whoever you need, police, fire, ambulance.
What's good is that we have a Nevada Traffic Incident Management Coalition, both in Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada, and these folks actually drill working with each other. So they'll and they meet about once every 2 months or so just to review things. We have a fast camera system that can catch a lot of activity on our major highways, and then they basically work together. So you have fire, you have NDOT, you have your ambulance driver teams, your tow trucks to get in there to an accident, and they choreograph each so they know who goes in quickest, and they can clear that scene and take whatever they need for each agency, and then leave really quickly to allow traffic to flow again. So that's the lifeblood of our tourist industry along I-5 here, I-15.
So keeping traffic moving is a very important part of what smart cities do, and they can tell where traffic is starting to clog up. They can open other areas and maybe make the through green lights longer to keep the traffic moving, and slow the traffic that's crossing it and slowing it down, redirect traffic, put information on the information signs on the freeway. All those things come into play. As well as they can use this traffic flow data to determine how to improve and to build new roads and where they're going to be built and how big do they need to be based on traffic flow data analysis.
Right, that's the big data side where are the trouble spots in the city, and if they can kind of isolate those and know that things typically will happen more frequently in these areas, then they can basically allocate their resources to take care of that.
So when you're driving around, take a look up at those street lights and see what you see in those street lights. How much equipment's up there? Are they yellow or are they a nice, clear, bright white color? The white ones are either going to be replaced high-pressure sodiums with induction like City of Henderson has, and they're also upgrading some LEDs. City of Las Vegas has some LEDs out there. A lot of high-pressure sodium still in Clark County. So we're going to see a lot of changes in the valley on those streetlights, and then along with those changes, we'll see more smart city pieces going on there that'll be used for data collection, analysis, and then providing additional services to the residents and citizens around the valley. One of the issues is looking at that data they're collecting. It's a fine line between providing services for citizens and becoming Big Brother.
Big Brother, right. We're always concerned about that.
Also,
privacy.
The leaking of that data is very critical as well. So encrypting all that data is one of the things I saw at a show where one company is doing just data encryption so that we don't lose track of that data.
Right.
There's
ways to see the data in aggregate without seeing the individual pieces of the data, and they can still do the analysis that way, I think.
Right. And then I saw a company at the show that actually does systems testing, kind of like I said, so like UL. And he said, yeah, like Underwriters Laboratory. So they will go in and do a UL-like testing of a system prior to it being installed to make sure it will work. Because what's going on right now with the smart city is there's all these different companies coming together and saying, I got a product.
Right.
Well, will they work with each other? Will the inputs work with the outputs? But the biggest issue I'm seeing with the smart cities is the communication systems.
Right.
So you can buy all these parts and pieces, but how do you connect them together? So there are different ways. There's SIM, there's wireless, there's Wi-Fi, there's infrared, there's what they call a cellular mesh. So all of them use a mesh-type communication system. So if you look at a fabric, it's just like that, and where every fabric crosses is a node, and they're connecting to those nodes, and then bringing all the information back to a hub.
With no dead zones.
No dead zones, exactly. So a lot of good things are coming out of the smart city implementation. The city of Chicago is doing a street light replacement, and the first step is smart street lights. So if you consider when street lights go on, if you got a street light up on a hill at dusk, it doesn't need to be as bright as a street light that's down in a valley at dusk. So you can control the light levels of those two lights. So how do you do this big street light replacement? Well, Chicago's like 275,000 street lights.
Wow.
So they've gone to the, if you will, kind of dangerous communities and said, we need to fix the lighting in these communities first. So they set up factories in those communities and hire the locals in those communities to run these factories. And so people needed jobs. They brought the jobs to the community.
That's great.
So they have street light replacement factories in each of these communities.
Nice.
What other things am I missing here on street lights?
Other things,
and smart
just
cities?
in general, in water conservation, recycling practices, things
Trash pickup.
Exactly, waste management in a smart city. Those are all important considerations that can be looked at from a bigger scale, a macro scale, looking down on it to see how to optimize that. And that's the benefit of taking all that data and putting it to work.
So smoothing out the operation of a city is what the smart city idea is, and to make it a more enjoyable place to live. You could go on your phone and say, okay, I want to go to Bob and Jack's Deli, and your phone's going to come back with this smart city application and say, okay, here's your trip, here's where you're going to travel to go there. Here's where you're going to park once you get there.
Right.
And here's a menu if you want to take a look at that and figure out what you want to eat when you get there.
Yeah, and I know City of Las Vegas does have a parking thing where you can pay your ticket from your cell phone if it's starting to expire in your parking area. So they have that service as well.
So fewer parking tickets. So there are advantages to all of this, and we're going to see improved lifestyles here in the Valley and elsewhere around the country. And we're going to talk more about this when we come back to Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back. Good morning, and we are back to Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM. Our show is produced by Green Alliance, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. I want to make an announcement that in April, we have our annual Green Fest 2019, which will be on April 20th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're going to have over 120 booths with that will exhibit money-saving, environmentally friendly lifestyle choices that can help families live more sustainably in southern Nevada desert climate. If you want to participate, have a booth, or sponsor something, or volunteer, please visit the Greenfest 2019 website at www.greenfestlv.com. Anything else on that, Stan, on that?
Well, I think the most exciting part is that it's our 10-year anniversary.
That's right. Wow.
Yeah, so
10 years.
very exciting.
That's amazing.
That's kind of a big deal. We've been doing this a long time, and it's become a very large event. Last year, they were,
120 booths.
120 booths, or over 10,000, 20,000 people there?
Yeah, they're saying that anywhere from 15 to 20,000. We don't know yet, but we do know downtown Summerlin enjoys 60,000 people plus every weekend.
During that day, yeah.
I tried
a certain
counting them.
Percentage of that came through.
Yeah, and there's a farmer's market going on as well as our booth, so that
Oh yeah,
hopefully
that
more
farmers
people.
market last year was really nice. I spent a lot of time in there too. Good food, a lot of products in there and stuff. So
Yeah.
I tried counting all the people, but they kept moving. And I
Yeah.
was losing track all the time.
It was busy from the beginning to the end. Another thing that I'd like to announce that's I think is exciting is Lisa Campbell, who used to be with the City of Las Vegas. In our earlier years, used to feature a Clark County-wide art contest, and she's returning this year. So we will be featuring a Clark County art contest at all ages, from elementary, middle school, high school, and there will be 10 finalists in each age group and 3 top winners. Blue Cross Blue Shield is actually sponsoring the prizes, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. And so Lisa Campbell is now with Create a Change, and she's going to actually drive this effort. She's done it for years with the city, and does an excellent job. So we're excited about that.
That'll be great for family-friendly events over there at Greenfest.
Yes.
Yeah, so get it on your camera, April 20th. Always fun for the kids, and then there's fun for adults there too, where we have a beer garden, and of course you can't have a festival without music. So we have several different acts coming into play, so get it on your calendar. So last segment for the Consumer Electronics Show that we want to talk about is transportation. Why are more nations like China and India encouraging the adoption of alternate fuel vehicles and refueling stations while weaning away from the petroleum diesel-based powered vehicles? So the EV and, we'll also talk about autonomous vehicles. Tell us a little bit about this, Stan.
Yeah, they really go together. That's been a trend in a couple areas for different reasons. Originally, the idea that vehicles could drive themselves was kind of science fiction, but we actually have had a shuttle bus running around Container Park in downtown Las Vegas for a year now, a project with the AAA, with Navia, with Keolis, who manages with the RTC, our CAT bus system. So they've been gathering data on that, and it's a little shuttle bus that just makes a route around about 8-block circle, but it stops at various points. Also, something that's been going on kind of as a pilot program is a company called Aptiv that's spun off from Delphi Electronics, has an office here in Pilot Road in Las Vegas, and they've been working with Lyft to actually offer autonomous drive. They'll pick you up just like a regular Lyft driver would, and there will be somebody behind the steering wheel, but they have level 3 autonomy, so that person won't be actually working the steering wheel. He'll just be there to give you information and step in if needed. But there are about 20 different sites on the Las Vegas Strip where that vehicle can take you to different hotels. So that's actually been running behind the scenes for a year now, and they were demonstrating that even more so during CES. Some of the other electric car news that kind of came out at that time is the Nissan Leaf. There's a new version of that with an extended battery pack. The electric cars in the past used to have only about 100 miles of range before you had to plug them in again. The new standard now, as the battery cost has come down, is to get cars that have more than 200 miles of range, and they're using about 60 kilowatt-hour battery packs. So each of the companies now is striving to bring that cost down and offer those products. Nissan just unveiled at CES their new Nissan Leaf Plus, and that one has a 226-mile range with a 60 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Some of the other things, also just around that time, towards the end of CES, GM also announced that the Cadillac line is going to go fully electric in the future. So that's something that was kind of a breakthrough change for them.
When you say fully electric, you mean only electric?
Only electric, yes. They're going to
no more internal combustion engines?
Eventually, they'll phase out the internal combustion engine, and it'll probably happen over a series of years. But the goal of it is to make it to compete against Tesla, basically, at the luxury. And so the high-end cars will be electric Cadillacs going forward.
Interesting.
That's a big commitment.
Yes.
That is a big commitment. Well, one of the things that I saw at the show, and for anybody that missed the show or couldn't make it, go online and look at CES 2019. There are a lot of videos. I think the majority of the seminars were recorded.
Yes.
I don't know what you got to do to get in there and see them, but some of these keynote speeches are talking about brand new technologies like 5G.
Exactly.
Was it the CEO of Verizon got up and talked about 5G? So a lot of great information there.
If you get a chance to check out Ginny Rometty's keynote for IBM, that was they are now introducing a quantum computer for the first time in their New York offices. They call it they're using qubits to calculate models now. And right now, it's a big mainframe. It's cryogenically cooled down to almost absolute zero, so you get superconductivity of the electrons within these special chips that they're making. So right now it's still a little bit slower than your laptop, but the way it computes, as they get this technology better, it's more aligned with the way the real world works, quantum mechanics at a very small level. So that was pretty amazing. And they talked about how artificial intelligence will probably find different types of applications in just about everything over time. Right now we're seeing artificial intelligence is pretty much pattern recognition plus some deep learning. And the combination of that gives us the ability to have things like Amazon Alexa and Google Home Assistant voice recognition that should continue to get better over time as these systems learn. The other thing is facial recognition. The new doorbells that have video on them that can actually recognize who's at the door and announce it inside in your home. And basically on people that you've labeled as with their facial information. So image pattern recognition, Google now, when you're doing a search, if you're searching on an image, the image recognition software, artificial intelligence they're using, allows you to zoom in on like images and group a whole bunch of images together and actually have the computer tell you what it's seeing and answer your questions that way.
And in that vein, I learned about a new term called LiDAR.
Yes.
Light and radar are working together to look at these images, and then another company has taken it a step further. They not only identify and see all these images, but they also are taking some of the images out that aren't necessary, like static images, like buildings. They take them out so that when your autonomous car is responding to what's going on out there, it's not looking at the building. It's looking at pedestrians and animals and other cars moving, the lanes next to you, the cars that are crossing over.
So it can filter that information and make decisions based on that.
The IDAR filters out the LiDAR information. So it's all pretty cool stuff.
Amazing, yes.
And of course, with the electric transportation, we reduce the pollution to zero from them. They have like zero pollution. They still maintain a carbon footprint from manufacturing, but very little carbon footprint during operations. So
and we can make electricity at home, so we can charge our cars at home as well.
Catching up with
from
the
sun.
Jetsons.
it is the Jetsons. So thank you, everybody, for listening to Shades of Green on KDWN, and we'll be back next week with more great information. Keep it green out there.
Your home for Sean Hanel.